Welcome to Thinking Green. I'm Rana. And housing has really been much in the news lately. It seems as though in New London and some of the surrounding towns, a lot of apartment buildings are being built, but it hasn't really totally addressed housing issues. So today I'm very happy to be joined by Brandi Walker, who is in the Connecticut Tenants Union, which fairly recently came to southeastern Connecticut. It's been around in some other parts of the state for a few years now. So welcome, Brandi.
Thank you.
I guess I'll start by just asking, what's your housing story and how did it bring you to the Tenants Union?
I grew up in New London and I've always been a renter. And my landlord sold the property and we were notified, but I didn't get into the union until I got my eviction notice that I had to be out by December 1st. And the timing, it gave me about a month to move out.
Wow, that is really scary.
Yes, and because I wasn't in a lease, I didn't know what to do, so I was trying to figure out things. And my neighbor, Daz, across the hallway was trying to organize everyone. And they were already connected with the tenants union, and we were starting a chapter in our building. I was able to prevent getting evicted because I was protected, but there's other people in my building that wouldn't be, and that links back to the no fault clause in Connecticut, and how we're trying to expand the protections. But that's how I originally got connected, and it's just been snowballing because there's so many buildings that were bought by this one company, Alpha Capital, where they were trying to evict almost whole buildings. Like they served 50 eviction notices in a week. And you hear other people's stories and it's like rents keep rising and they offer to give some people 6-month renewals with a 40% raise for some people.
That's really pretty significant in terms, if you're thinking that housing isn't supposed to really cost more than 30, maybe 35% of what you're taking home every month.
Exactly.
And 40%, I mean, how much more would you suddenly have to be earning overnight to be able to afford it? Exactly.
And these private equity groups don't care. They're just buying up properties, trying to push out people and I live in a historic Victorian, and I see them change the lights to a $5 Home Depot type of lighting, and it's just like that light has been there for 200 years. Why are you? But they slap it on, and then they raise the rent an extra $200 off of that
because they improved it, right?
Yes. Major construction of putting some paint on.
And that actually is also a disheartening part if they're buying old buildings in historic, neighborhoods. Post Hill in New London is a very old neighborhood, and at one time was like where all the, whaling captains lived.
Yeah. And
so those were, really great houses.
Right. And we don't, all this, the newer construction they're doing for new apartments to help the affordability, which affordable to who is my question. But they're saying it's affordable, but it's slapped together. It doesn't match the landscape. they're demolishing buildings that have legacy to them, that have character, that you can't find anywhere anymore. And New London has so much potential. It always has had potential.
Yeah, this is the old New London story.
I know, and I'm still upset about the whale tail. I'm still bitter. But to see like new things go up, like that new building they put on where the Salvation Army building was,
yeah,
next to the Custom House and the museums, and it's like that. One of these things doesn't go.
Well, you know, my dream had been, and I mean, it sounds crazy now, but so that building, the Salvation Army building, is between the Vessel Apartments and the Custom House.
Right.
And when they were first talking about the Coast Guard Museum, I thought, oh, like Salvation Army wanted to sell, and there was this empty lot next to it. Thought that would be a great place to put a Coast Guard museum right next to the Custom House. I know some people were talking about Fort Trumbull, but my idea was you keep it out downtown so people who come in on the train or on the ferry can walk to it. You don't need a shuttle, but they'd have to walk into the city and past the businesses as well.
Makes sense, yes.
Anyway, it didn't catch on.
No, it frustrates me because I remember when the downtown New London had cobblestone and and people said, you know, if there was enough foot traffic, and now we have cars, but you still don't see a lot of traffic. It feels like, yes, you can park down there now, but I feel like back then there was something quaint about it, but I also grew up with it, but I remember there would be more green spaces as well. And this push to modernize and make more apartments or make more incentives for big companies while eliminating the locals. Like, we need more green spaces. We need buildings people can afford to live in, and we're just losing that.
Well, you know, a couple months ago I did an interview with Bill Morse, who wrote a book called Lost New London, about New London pre-redevelopment, and he grew up in New London, and he's probably in his early 70s now. And there were a lot of different housing options then, which was so fascinating to me. You know, over every retail place there was apartments. There were rooms to rent on this upper floor of the train station. Families had multifamily houses, and so different generations of a family might live in the same building. And it seems we've lost a lot of that kind of, I don't know, creative, small-scale housing.
We definitely have in this push for, I don't know why they're pushing it so hard, but yes, there should be more options. Like there is the Public Land Trust right now as well. And part of the Connecticut Tenants Union goal and vision is to have it where people can buy their apartments, where it's a co-op, where you have because it's like your home. You have lived there for years. You've built a family, and then someone comes in and they could say move in 30 days. You don't own anything, but they can come in and there's no regulation. Like why can a company own 10 buildings and then sell it to a subsidiary to cover their tracks? Why is this being allowed?
So let's talk about Alpha Capital, because it seems as though not only in New London, but in East Lyme as well, they've really gotten people scared and stirred up. Right.
They came in, and some of the apartments they're turning into condos now in East Lyme. And you have a lot of older people in that building who they sold their homes and because they didn't want to deal with all the work anymore, and now they had to find something new. And the condos, it's not like they were expanding the sizes, but the price is ridiculous. I don't know anyone's justification for how these prices are coming about. I recently talked to someone who came from California, from San Diego, and the rents here are the same as in California. And that makes no sense to me. It really...
No, we briefly considered moving to California in the mid-1990s. And when we looked at a San Jose newspaper to see what the rental costs were. We had just bought our house, but we had been renting, for like $600 a month, and the rents for a like 2-bedroom apartment were double that at the time. But yes, the gap has definitely narrowed. I think COVID might have had something to do with it, that New Yorkers started buying houses because New London's on the train line.
Right. But what about the people that are already here? I can understand.
Yeah.
But even saying COVID feels like it's like an excuse, because why are you allowing these huge firms to come in?
True.
And I actually, when we were doing a campaign knocking on different doors, another building that Alpha did own in Groton, they sold to another firm. And it's 1 bedrooms with a shared kitchen, and people are paying close to $1,000 for a bedroom.
Wow.
No kitchen, it's dorm style. So if that's $1,000 and you can justify it and people aren't fighting back, where else are you supposed to go?
Yeah, and I think there is maybe a place for dorm style housing. One of the housing options that was available 60 years ago was a boarding house, so that single people who moved to the city for a job, their first job, could find a place to live, that they'd meet people, but they weren't expensive.
No.
And they weren't large scale. They were usually, family run.
That would make sense. And I don't see too many family run landlords anymore. And that was very prevalent when I was growing up. And it's just, okay, you do a management firm, maybe it's less pressure for a landlord, but it's why is it allowed you can own multiple buildings and then just sell it off without considering the people that are in there? And I feel like that does have to do with the city as well. Like, why isn't the city stepping in? But then they're saying, oh, well, it's the state's problem.
And I know I'm on the Planning and Zoning Commission, and it's very frustrating because planning and zoning can do some regulating of what type of buildings are built. But in terms of making rules about who may or may not own residential buildings, has to be a governmental body, not a planning body. So I would think that city council would be able to do some things.
That's what I would think.
And the state is doing a few things. You mentioned the just cause eviction. Do you want to talk about the details of that? No, we can talk.
I do forget what it's under, the just cause. I know there's two more weeks of the session, and if they don't vote for it this session, we're gonna have to wait another year. And we don't have time for that. Right now, you can be evicted by a lapse in time, as they call it. And that just means you're not under your lease expired, and you can be evicted. And they can give you 30 days, so good luck with that. Yeah. But right now, if you qualify as having a disability, which has to be documented, and you're over 65, you are protected for now. But we feel it should be expanded for renters. They shouldn't be able to push you out of your home like that. But other than that, the fact that you have to have documented, what if you don't? What if you just need time? There's no room for empathy in this. And we're all humans, we all have to have a home. And it feels like everything's about money at the end of the day.
Well, with a corporation, I guess literally everything is about money. Their mission is to make money for their shareholders. And, I was talking to another retired friend of mine a few weeks ago, and we were at a housing program. And it was really frustrating that, when we looked at our savings and we decided, maybe 10, 15 years ago, I don't want to invest in like Colt, the gun company, or in, fossil fuels or whatever. So, let's invest in things that are like more socially positive, right? And so you look at that, and there are these socially responsible funds, and they're investing in things that shouldn't be money makers.
Right.
It's like human needs. They're investing in healthcare. They're investing in housing. In some food companies, and it's like turning things that people need every day into a commodity.
Right, and you have to make a choice between paying your rent, the electric bill, because that keeps going up, and food. And there's only so many resources for you to go to sometimes, and you don't know about them if you don't communicate. And where do you go to ask for help? So you have to know what's out there. But you're already struggling to make your ends meet, and then you have the insecurity of housing. If you don't have a roof over your head, how can you work? Because you no longer have an address. And yet people have problems with homelessness and saying we need more security and we need more policing. So that budget's fine, but we're cutting our school budget. And like the budget I last looked for the police department was $13 million, but we're closing a school in New London.
Yeah, it's very frustrating that we seem like we underfund things off until we have a crisis,
Right.
and then we fund a lot to deal with the crisis without actually fixing what caused the crisis.
Right. Like if you're a homeless child, and then you can't work because you have a child that you have to take care of, and you have nowhere to go, you're going to be on the street as it is, and that's going to upset this neighborhood and that neighborhood. But you've also lost the neighborhood people that grew up there, who had their grandparents there. I'm actually living up the street from where I grew up. My great aunt still lives there. I can point out where my grandmother used to tell me that she used to go raiding, getting fruit trees, and it's disappearing. But there used to be more of a community. And the thing is, people don't know that there's unions out there that protect tenants. And that's the thing too. It's like, we have to all work together to stop this, but where do you go? And it's very frustrating, it's tiring, but it feels like it's just gonna get worse if we don't do something as well.
Well, you mentioned that the state senate is working on just cause eviction, which I think it did pass its first hurdle, but who knows? Right. But I did look up, and I saw State Senator Martha Marks sends out a little email newsletter, and I was somewhat heartened to see that there is another Senate bill about private equity firms not being able to buy, they could still buy big buildings,
right,
but not being able to buy buildings that are 3 or less apartments, maybe.
That's a start.
I know a lot of the housing fixes are really limited.
Right. They feel like half measures, and also Representative Nolan has been really big in this fight as well. And there are several city council members that I always see at events and talking. Representative Hart is very big advocate, and looking at where money's going and why. So we do have people that are more progressive now that are challenging some of this. We just need more.
Yeah, it's difficult when the accessory dwelling unit rules, were relaxed in New London. They were not relaxed as much as the state had originally recommended.
Right.
And I thought it was kind of a shame because, I live on a block near the hospital. It's an old block, and it's a single family zone, but because all the houses were built before there was zoning,
right,
there are quite a few 2-family houses on the block. And it's really, I see it as a plus.
I do too. You need more options that are different, that they're not trying to cram you into a building, and they're trying to pack as many people as possible, but charging ridiculous rents.
And the one other bill I saw that Senator Marks was talking about was the so-called Golden Girls bill that homeowners could rent out up to 3 bedrooms in their house without needing any special permit. So people who own big houses, I guess.
Yes.
It seemed odd, but it could help some small number.
It could. I feel like that's slippery because if there's not enough regulation, I feel like you'll still have people that are trapped in situations because they don't have anywhere else to go except for those 3 bedrooms.
Yeah.
And they can still charge a ridiculous rent because, those are the 3. And I feel like that should only be for like family.
Yeah.
Like it used to be like you could only rent certain things to families and like family members. And maybe we should go back to that. Like, okay, like that seems like you could take advantage of someone, especially if they're elderly and they only have a fixed income. They have nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
But they have to share space because, that's
how they can afford.
Yeah.
They're owning their house. We're in a hard place.
Right.
And, as you mentioned, homelessness is very visible in New London. And I think it's a shame partly because unlike a lot of Connecticut, our population is actually smaller than it was in 1960. It's about 28,000 now. In 1960, it was about 34,000. So we had a lot more people living in New London then. Why are we having so much trouble housing who we have?
Right.
So I don't know. It's a bit of a quandary, but it's a hard issue.
Right. And I don't know what the right answer is because you also have like business spaces downtown that are empty. And like the Buckley House has been empty for how many years? And it's like, I just finally saw it for sale. But you have places like that, they're empty for a long time.
Well, I think of the Cronin building on State Street, which, was at one time a perfect place to have retail downstairs and apartments upstairs. And at one point, it had a very bad owner who took out some load-bearing walls. And I hear that it's being considered for a public market proposal, but I don't know if the upstairs will ever be refitted to have apartments.
Right, which is sad. There was extra housing right there. So there has to be like landlord accountability as well. I know that's in discussion with the People's Trust and the People's Budget. I know that they want to come together and build like a landlord database and provide classes, but it still comes to it like everyone has to work together. It has to be city council, it has to be residents, and try to pressure this on the state level.
Yeah, and zoning might have some small part in it too, because there could be rules that are, protective, but also that are inclusive of more variety.
Right, that would make sense. It feels like there's some things that just make sense, and you go to the city council meeting. It's just like, how much push can you really do when you're not on it? But there's only so much we can do right now, but we need the numbers because the more people that are invested in knowing what's going on and vocal, then we can push people more to get to change, hopefully.
So I went to the Connecticut Tenants Union website, and one way. It listed, different ways that the tenants union is organized, but it also had 2 campaigns they mentioned: the Just Cause eviction, but also a boycott. So, can you talk about this direct action to push, Alpha Capital?
Yes. To pretty much make an example of Alpha, because they aren't the only ones that are doing this. There is a boycott for businesses and people to sign up to not rent from them, for businesses not to do business with them, not to work with them, to make it difficult as possible to work with Alpha so that they don't continue buying up buildings and pushing people out. And I forgot when it first started, the campaign, but we're supposed to have another push next month. And it's just a continuous thing. Like, we just want people to sign up to boycott, because there's also signs available, if like yard signs. So contact the Connecticut Tenants Union for any lawn signs that you want, or finding out how else you can help. And also, you do not have to be have your building owned by Alpha Capital to sign up. You can organize in your own building as well, or just sign up for the union for protection as well. There is a lawyer as part of your union dues that goes towards, and she's really good at what she does. Like, she's gone in front of the Fair Housing Commission to help people. So definitely, like, if you can sign up for the boycott of Alpha, get involved with the union, sign up if you're a renter, and just be as active as possible, and support the just cause votes, and talk to your representatives. That's the biggest thing we can do.
Now, I know when you go to the website, the Connecticut Tenants Union, let's see if I can read the small print on the paper, organizing for tenant power to ensure every person has access to safe and stable housing.
Right.
So it seems as though more and more people, like regular people as opposed to corporate bigwigs, are finding ways to do things together to amplify the power.
Right. Like, honestly, knowing who your neighbors are makes a difference. And I think because we've been so secluded for so long, that now that we're all feeling the crunch, it's like, what do you do? By being able to talk to your neighbor and know who your neighbors are has made a difference. And because we're all in this together, actually. So if they try to raise your rent and you're in the union, we're trying to fight it to get them to come to the table, because Alpha keeps not wanting to negotiate. There's people who their lease is up or they're not in a lease, but what are you supposed to do? Like, they're not working with us. It's just to have them negotiate is all that we're asking, and we get ignored. And so that's all we can do, is like just keep pushing until maybe we can do a co-op option for people, or more housing options that aren't run by equity firms.
Right. Now, I notice a lot of the newspaper articles locally about Alpha Capital are about the East Lyme problems. How's the interaction between the New London people and the East Lyme folks?
We work together, actually. Like, we'll go to East Lyme to help them, and then they'll come to New London to help us, like with our protest and our meetings, because we'll have meetings in New London, we'll have meetings in East Lyme as well. And East Lyme people are very vocal, and they help out, and we try to help them out, because we're all union, so we support each other. It's just, yes, you hear about the East Lyme one more, but there's a lot of buildings in New London that are owned by Alpha. I know of 4 that I can walk to from where I am. And they're also in Groton, but you don't hear about that as much either. And they actually sold some of the Groton ones to another private equity firm. And so it's just like a card shuffle. But no, we work well with East Lyme.
Do you have sort of the same issues? Are you getting treated about the same way the East Lyme people are, or are there differences?
If there's differences, East Lyme, they're turning them into condos. So they're charging, I want to say, like $300,000 for something that was an apartment.
Oh my gosh.
And so they're trying to protest the realtors and trying to get the realtors to not work with Alpha and boycott them as well. The people in New London, they treat you differently depending on how much you have left in your lease. Or they'll say, they'll work with some people. I actually haven't gotten a phone call yet, and I'm just waiting, and I'm like, I'm not in a lease, and I'm terrified because I have nowhere I can go. And luckily right now I'm in the union, but who's to say, like, what if certain laws don't change, where I can go? And you don't know what's going to happen, and there's insecurity with that. And so I know I'm not the only one, but there's people that are trying to find elderly housing in New London, and they're struggling because they've lived in my building for close to 10 years. But we do try to we work together as much as we can. Like we meet together. We're actually having we have union meetings, like we're doing like a union brunch. So it builds a sense of community, and we do like Zoom calls to see where you're at. But definitely Alpha treats different people different. If you make too much of noise or if you talk too much, they tend to go after those people first. And so like if you talk back too much, then they try to find ways to get rid of you.
Have any of the other cities in Connecticut that have been at it, the tenants union a little longer, have they had successes that you can emulate, like in New Haven area or Hamden or?
They were able to, because some of the permits, I believe, for Alpha were questionable, and Alpha has had a few lawsuits, I believe, because of that. We were in New London alone. We were able to challenge them through the Fair Rent Commission, and get rent frozen for 6 months because it was retaliatory, some of those rent hikes. So we are making progress, and Alpha they keep going, but it's like they change things so that you don't have to look up things. Like Tyler Smith is the person that runs it, and he got rid of his Instagram, but on his Instagram, he even said about the fact, like, oh yeah, invest so we can raise, like, the way he worded it was he wanted to be a real estate influencer. So you could tell what he wants. He just wants money. He doesn't care. And saying like, oh, you don't have to change too much. You could reuse the cabinets and raise it 3 times. The videos were disgusting, but he finally got rid of it because I think people were calling attention to it. But yes, he wants to be an influencer, and so it's like that already gives you like a bad taste in your mouth. But he's definitely doesn't care, and it's just you see it. But yes, East Lyme is probably treated differently than New London because they want to so-called raise the clientele that they're having in New London.
There's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
So, and just one more question about the tenants union, and then I want to talk about people's budget. How is it organized? I mean, do all the chapters ever get together?
So what happens is each building is its own chapter. So I'm at Nathan Hale, and I just got elected vice president of that unit.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So each building has its own chapter, and then we come together for a general members meeting for everyone, like for New London, East Lyme, because it's still very small. And depending on the time, not many people can make it. But we all work together, we all communicate. There's usually like a group text for that, and then like we send updates to members that can't make it. Then we have a Luke who deals with a lot of things, and Chelsea Connolly, I believe. I know I'm messing up her name. She's the lawyer, and Caroline Formo. So it's like every chapter comes together, and we all vote on things. We all talk, and we go to classes together. We learn training to find out better ways to get the word out and to protest. So we all work together. So it's very good. It's good community building, and it also helps you get out of the house.
Yeah.
So.
No, community building is really what we need now.
Right.
So you had mentioned in your email that you're also involved with the People's Budget Coalition and their work on housing.
Right.
So how does what People's Budget do complement what the tenants union is doing?
They are actually one of our biggest supporters. It feels like they also deal with. They also are part of like Hearing Youth Voices, so like trans health and housing with the youth with that, and they need a lot of support as well, because the housing committee is very small with that too. But it's like we need more people. And so we, go to council meetings and planning and talk to council members too. And my training, I actually went to a training called the Democracy School on the 11th, and I was there representing the People's Budget and the Connecticut Tenants Union. And so we all communicate because housing is such a big issue, and also because we also look at the budget and the percentages of what's going on in New London. The fact that only around 37% of New Londoners are property owners. The rest are renters.
And yeah, that has actually been really a frustration for me on the Planning and Zoning Commission, just because, 12 years ago when the Southeastern Connecticut Community Land Trust got started, I'm not that active now, but I was at the beginning. And when we were looking at the percent of home ownership, it was kind of the same, like between 35 and 40% owners. And then in the time, like the 10 years that I've been on the Planning and Zoning Commission, we get so many more applications for rental for big apartment buildings that over the 10 years, like we've probably approved 1,000, more than 1,000 rental units. The docks and the beam and the ones off of Ocean Avenue, and so a lot of rentals, and probably maybe 100 owner-occupied projects, and you can't flip your owner percentage if what's getting built is mostly rental.
Exactly.
In fact, I'm actually surprised our ownership rate isn't worse, because I see what's been built in the last 10 years, and we build maybe 50 chances for condos and single family houses or duplexes, but compared to that 50 to 100, we might have built 1,000 apartments. Also like upper floors in the downtown buildings have been developed. So it just seems like we're lacking some mechanism to make it easier and more attractive maybe to build for ownership and not just for rental.
Well, I know the excuse is because they want to prevent gentrification. That's what I heard someone say. By building these buildings, it'll prevent people from being pushed out. And I'm like, I don't understand that logic, but okay. And they're calling everything they're building affordable. There's like, it's affordable housing. To who is my question. Who can afford these houses, not these houses, these apartments with the paychecks that are there? And you could say, EB's hiring. Depending on what job you have at EB, who can afford it? And there's not a lot of options for even lease to own anymore. And that used to be an available option. Or like if the public trust could buy a building and then you could use your rent to help subsidize something. But there's no options. You either are a homeowner or you aren't. And getting out of the rental circle is hard. And you building 1,000 units and justifying, but yet your rent's $3,000.
Well, what we're seeing more of now is what's being called workforce housing, which I guess is supposed to be slightly lower in cost than the luxury apartments. But once again, the same question that you ask is like, what workforce are we talking about? I was a preschool teacher, so I was like poor.
Right.
I mean, there were two of us, but for many years, Bob was working like at Seaside Regional Center. It was a state union job, but it was not something that you really get wealthy off of. And so we were both working in social services for a long time, and you just don't have that much income.
No. My mother actually worked for Seaside as well. They were one of the biggest employers. But that stuff ends eventually sometimes. So you're relying on one company to fund everything. And then if it does collapse, what happens to those people?
And although there doesn't seem to be an end in sight for EB right now, everything is temporary.
Exactly.
I mean, how many decades, centuries was there whaling in New London?
Right.
And, some things change.
Right.
So I agree that, diversified jobs would probably be better for the economy in general. But I don't know what is going to be the long-term use of some of these buildings. They might not always be considered luxury apartments.
I hope not. I mean, everyone deserves a decent place to live that's affordable, where you can also afford to eat and pay your electric bill and be warm and not have to pick and choose what to pay, in addition to working 60 hours a week and still being broke. And there are plenty of EB employees I knew that were working 60-hour weeks and still barely making ends meet because rent and having to supply money for a family. It's not an easy answer, but also we also should probably have more businesses in New London, smaller businesses. There's those business spaces, like maybe more incentive there. Then you could hire more people, but at the same time, they also have to rent too.
Right. And I know people who have owned small businesses in New London, and it's not an easy life.
No.
We knew a person who owned a restaurant, and his gas bill started going through the roof, and
Right.
it's difficult. I'm glad that the city is aware that they don't want to displace people, because a lot of New London's creative people and people who are working in human-centered jobs don't have that much money.
No, maybe if we had like an artist apartment space where it was a lot cheaper, but also studio space. That way you don't have to, because also if you want to own a business, if you want to be an artist, you tend to have to pay 2 rents or like multiple different spaces. And at least if maybe you had something like artist spaces where, okay, that's one less thing you have to worry about, then your community can build off of that. There's just so many different avenues that we could do, and it feels like we're not, it's like you talk about it, but we're not doing it. And it's hard right now. Like, I know we're all struggling to survive.
That is true. So other than things we've talked about, what particular things are, the People's Budget and Hearing Youth Voices doing about housing?
They're trying to help with the passing of no fault, the just cause, and they're trying to be active. They're trying to help those who are vulnerable in our community with housing, especially young students who may not be able to go home. They help. They have interns, so they're also educating the community, and they hold information systems just to spread it out. I actually have a meeting with them Friday to talk about our next plan, because each month there's something that we're trying to work towards. Because this summer, like the New London residents that are under Alpha, our rent can go up because we're no longer being protected by the Fair Rent Commission. So they're supporting us and we're supporting them. It's all about education right now, and trying to build momentum and working with the councils, the city council and the state. So we're just all trying to find a consensus that we can all work within the realm of what's available.
Now, with that in mind, what would you say is the potential and what are the limitations of what a Fair Rent Council can do?
The Fair Rent Commission is made up of tenants and landlords. And so if a landlord is connected, they are supposed to recuse themselves, but you're able to file online, and the person that is in the city council office who runs is wonderful. She is so overworked, but if you have a concern and you're not getting a response from the landlord, you can go to the Fair Rent Commission and file a report. And then there's a hearing, and they have so much to respond. Like Alpha was supposed to respond, and they weren't exactly prepared. And the thing is, you are able to challenge and question. And I think a lot of us don't know that we can ask questions. We can go, and the Fair Rent Commission it tries to keep it objective. However, it seems like they are listening. They are doing their best. It's a mix of landlords, tenants, and the city council, and they're trying. But definitely, if you have a concern with your landlords, file it online, and it takes, I think, a couple weeks to a couple months, and you'll have to go in front of city council with documentation. But that's also how you can get protected. Like, they can freeze your rent, they can put the rent in escrow, they do a number of things that just being by yourself you can't do sometimes. And so that's why everything works together. The union, the Fair Rent Commission, the people's budget, we all have to collaborate to work together.
Now, we have one slide that just has websites and contact info. If people want to get in touch or learn more about the Tenants Union and also about the People's Budget Coalition. I know that the People's Budget Coalition is always looking for people, not only in the housing committee.
There's several commissions, yeah.
But they have many committees. I'm not on any of them, but I sort of consult a little bit with the land use one.
Oh, yeah.
But it's really a good thing for people to get involved in.
It is.
It's a great group, a very diverse group of people, and it's mostly led by people who are on the young side who have really a stake in the future.
Yes.
And that isn't always common when you go to various city commissions.
Yeah, it's very good. And right now they're focused on 3 initiatives. One of them is education, especially with the New London closing one of the schools. And land use, there's several different committees that you can join with the People's Budget. So I would advise, if you're interested, just contact them. And they have plenty of work for you to do.
Yeah. So we have about 5 minutes, and I wanted to, mention events that are going on, but I first wanted to ask you to talk about 2 minutes about, you've been involved in Neighborhood Academy, and just describe what it's like.
The Neighborhood Academy is actually run by the person that deals with the Fair Rent Commission. So it's through a grant, I believe a federal grant, and you get to meet city council members, city planners, and see the history of New London. You get to see how our government works. One of the classes was from the Economic Development Committee planner, and he broke down where some of the money was going, and like the percentages of the renters and stuff like. So that's how I remember that one, because it was recent. And you get to see like, oh, so this is where you're going, and you get to ask them questions that you're dying to ask. Like that new building that's downtown, I did ask about that.
Oh.
I forget what it's called, that monstrosity. But it's good that you can actually see people and you put a face. It's not just a nameless thing, like where you're already angry, but you can put a face to it and be like, oh, they're human too. They're just doing their job, and we're all working the best we can. So the Neighborhood Academy, the point of it is to also raise community leaders. So if you know how your community is being run, then you can also try to affect change in that. So it's a very good program. I believe it runs maybe twice a year, I want to say. I could be wrong, could be just once, but it's a very good program. I actually, even if you don't want to get fully involved, to sign up for it next time. It's very educational, because also you get to see everything that New London has been and what it could be by just going to class. And you also meet other people in the community that you may not have a chance to, other business owners, other people that just moved to the area, people that lived there their whole lives. And we all have a stake in all of this. So it's very good.
all in it together. There is a lot going on this weekend, so I did make some slides so that I didn't forget some of the things that are happening. I think tomorrow is technically Earth Day, but it seems as though all the activities are coming up in the weekend. Bates Woods is having a festival on Saturday. Fresh New London is having a plant sale pretty much the same time on Saturday. Their early plant sale. This is, Bates Woods had Earth Day festivals, oh boy, I want to say about 25 years ago, around 2001 or 2, and it'll be kind of fun to see it again.
Yeah.
And then also, I think on Saturday evening, there's a Hoot for Hunger. So a bunch of musicians at the Telegraph who are raising money. I believe, I don't know if it's for the Meal Center or the Food Pantry. And then the Walk to End Homelessness on Sunday. So there is really a lot going on. And I just saw today, and I don't have a slide, that there's going to be a food drive, food being collected on Redden Street in New London. And the Tenants Union and the Land Trust, Mount Olive Church, the Center for Housing Opportunity are all cooperating on getting food because housing is a big issue. But food is really a big one.
Yeah, everything works together, and it's you need to eat, you need to have housing, otherwise, and if you don't have any of that, then where are you going to go? So it's good that we're all coming together, and there's resources that we're trying to build, and that are out there. I actually have worked with Fresh New London before myself, and just being able to go and get fresh vegetables versus and go to someone and talk to someone versus going to the grocery store and spending so much and then it going to waste versus, oh, this is locally grown. This is someone that, I know that this person worked on this. So I definitely, everything that's out in New London that you can endorse, please do.
Yeah, especially at this time of year. And in the last maybe 30 seconds, someone who's watching this who wants to get involved in the Tenants Union or in the People's Budget, what's the first thing they should do?
Go to the websites or email someone and just ask what you can do to sign up or get more involved, because we do want your help. We want to be there for you as well and to support each other. If you want to get involved, just email the Connecticut Tenants Union or go online. And the People's Budget, always in need of more help as well. Nicole is really great, and at the People's Budget as well, and she will get back to you fairly quick. So,
well, thank you for coming on, Brandi. We'll have to get an update maybe in 3 or 4 months and see how big you've all grown.
Fingers crossed. Thank you.
And we'll see you over the next couple of weeks. We'll see you all around town.
Yes.
And I'll be back here next week, though I'm not quite sure with whom.
Yes, I'll look forward to seeing what's next.
So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Good night, everyone.